I can't stop thinking about them getting launched into space and being crushed in a lab and boiled in alcohol.
I mean, imagine all the other things that they did to rule them out.
It's really killing my vibe. Welcome to World's Wildest.
Hello.
Today's episode is the world's coldest.
It's very cold.
It's about 75 degrees in here.
It's hot.
My immersion.
I got it cranked down to 50. That's the lowest that the AC will go.
That's crazy.
It's 74. It's coming down.
We're going to talk about some of the world's coldest animals today.
So cold.
Or the animals that are the best adapted to cold, extreme cold.
Mine's all about survival, not thriving, but survival in cold. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah.
I personally grew up in California. I get cold at like 65 degrees.
I worked in Alaska for
I'm sweatshirt at 65.
and it got pretty cold. I wasn't really there over the winter much, but it does get very, very cold.
I don't think I would survive in the snow. I don't like the cold. So this would be a great episode. Shall we begin?
Please.
By the way, remember, we have a Patreon. And last Patreon bonus episode, I poured a whole bottle of water on Connor's head right here.
It's a great time.
So you can go find more content on our Patreon. Okay. Okay, this one's actually, I'm really stoked about this because it is freaking weird. My first one has the Guinness World Record for most cold-tolerant insect,
Okay.
terrestrial insect. It's called the red flat bark beetle.
Okay.
They are between 0.39 and 0.55 inches long. That's 10 to 14 millimeters tiny.
Hold on. 0.35?
0.39 and 0.55 inches.
Something like that.
Half an inch.
Oh, I thought you said 3 point. Oh, no.
0.39 and 0.55 inches.
Oh, okay. Very tiny. Okay.
Audio listeners, he held up like 3 inches.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, they're like half an inch. They're tiny little beetles. Their diet consists of other beetles, small arthropods, fungus, plants. They're found in North America, from North Carolina to the Brooks Range in Alaska.
Okay.
Connor has worked in Alaska. Tell us how it feels out there in the winter.
I wasn't there for much, but it gets dark very, very fast. It's very, very cold. You can't see anything, and there's snow everywhere. And Kayla actually worked through winter building fences, and she had to like stop working from Kayla's my wife. Stop working because she had frostbite on her toes that was never like fully recovered, and the permafrost got so dense that they had to basically stop working. They couldn't put posts in the ground anymore.
Is it cold enough for your eyeballs to freeze?
No, but the lashes do.
I know a biologist. This is a plug. His name's Wes Larson. He's a bear biologist. He has a podcast called Tooth and Claw Podcast. Excellent. Go check that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wes was on my old podcast, and he told a story about when he went to Antarctica. I don't know how cold it was there. Very,
Very cold.
very cold. And he had glasses on, and he got a crack in one of his glasses. And so cold wind blew into his glasses, and it froze his right eyeball. And he could feel it freeze, and it got really hard, and he couldn't move it. And so he had to like get rushed inside, and it defrosted, and his vision's totally fine. But it can be cold enough where your eyeballs just freeze in your head.
That is crazy. Can I have some numbers about the coldest place in the world, which is Antarctica.
Yeah.
High Ridge in Antarctica got to negative 135.8 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's fine.
Or negative 93 Celsius.
That's fine.
So, how long can a body last? A naked
Your
body?
naked body will die, as in you will die in 20 minutes if it's 32 degrees.
Fahrenheit, which is 0 degrees
Fahrenheit.
Celsius. So, yeah. You
Which
have
is
to-
pathetic, low-key.
Yeah, it is. Pretty weak.
It's really sad. Okay, so this...
Hold on. Sorry. I got two more points about contextualizing cold. I'm so
ready.
sorry. So the coldest place on Earth is in
Antarctica.
our atmosphere.
Oh.
Like the coldest place on the surface of Earth is Antarctica, but coldest place on Earth is in the mesosphere, which is actually in the middle atmosphere.
Yeah.
Gets to negative 200 and basically 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 173 degrees Celsius.
Negative.
And yeah, negatives. Thank you. How cold do you think it is on Mount Everest?
Negative 10
Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Fahrenheit.
Negative 42 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 51 degrees Celsius. So
Light work.
the temperatures that we're talking about are, at least for mine, are quite cold.
My temperatures are ridiculous. I really think I'm going to win this one off the bat.
Oh.
I really do.
Nope. Mine gets down to 1 Kelvin, and I'll go into that later.
Okay. I have the Guinness World Record holder for the most cold-tolerant insect. All right, this is the red flat bark beetles. They're beautiful. Check him out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's beautiful. He's just a little red beetle, and he's got little red and black legs. He looks like plastic in a good way, not in a yuck plastic way. It looks fake. It looks like something you'd buy at a party store.
What are those Red Hots? Looks like a Red Hot.
Oh, I don't like those.
Oh,
I don't like
either.
cinnamon.
Yeah, huge cinnamon.
He looks like a Red Hot.
Yeah.
So scientists at the University of Alaska's Institute of Arctic Biology.
Cool.
They do great work. Sounds miserable. Just gonna say.
That sounds great.
I don't like the cold. They find them in larval stages where they look like rice grain-sized little worms. We'll pull up a picture of the larva as well. It kind of looks like a maggot centipede. Cute.
Mealworm.
Or it looks like a mealworm a little bit.
Yeah.
Just the size of a grain of rice.
Cool.
This is the larva. They're very cute. For some context or for some reference points, yellow jackets, this is all like out where these beetles live as well. Yellow jackets, stink bugs, other insects that survive above ground in winter will perish at about negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 25 degrees Celsius. They cooled these beetles in a lab to negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
Or negative 70 degrees Celsius, and they were fine.
The beetles or the larvae?
The beetles.
And then they thawed them and they were fine? Or were they active at negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit? 93?
So here's the cool part about these beetles. They don't have to thaw them. They don't freeze.
Oh, okay. So they're just fine. They keep
They
doing
don't
their
freeze.
thing.
Yeah, okay. You're not impressed by negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'm still trying to contextualize
it's fine.
it.
I have more to tell you.
I'm trying to, like, if it's not...
I could tell by the look on your face that you're not impressed by negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's not if they're just chilling. If they're, like, in a, a torpor.
This is coming from a guy that would die if he was naked in 20 minutes in 32 degrees.
I would make it 30 minutes.
So they were very impressed by this, that they survived in such low temperatures.
They thrived. It sounds like they thrived, because that's different. Survival, for what I'm talking about later, it's an important distinction. Survival is them just being kind of alive, not doing anything. If they're going around active and thriving, that is amazing. That is huge.
I'm about to blow your socks off,
okay,
and you're going to eat your stupid words. They sent the beetles to a lab in California to do even colder testing. And for reference, again, you said it earlier, but the lowest temperature recorded on Earth ever was in Antarctica, and it was negative 129 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 89 degrees Celsius. I don't know if that's the exact temperature you had. Something around there.
It's close.
And that was in 1983. They tried to freeze these beetles, and they did not freeze at negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 150 degrees Celsius.
Are they still active?
Those are unearthly temperatures. No.
Okay, but they're not frozen. Okay, that's crazy.
How?
What antifreeze molecules do they have?
So in August, every year, they start producing antifreeze-like proteins. Antifreeze lowers the freezing point of water, which is why we put it in our cars. And it binds to sites where ice might form. Then later in the fall, they produce glycerol, which drives their freezing point down, and then they begin to lose the water in their bodies.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that's rare. Don't freeze via severe dehydration.
Yeah.
Negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit. They don't freeze. Why?
That is very cold. Why?
Because there's no water.
And they've got those antifreeze molecules in specific areas, which is really cool because it's crazy that it would know to go to those locations and it would evolve that way. That's amazing.
You know what they do instead of freezing?
They sit there and huddle around a campfire.
Their body water is vitrified.
I don't even know what that means.
At around negative 104 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 76 degrees Celsius, they're vitrified. That was the first time I almost swore on this podcast because this is so crazy.
I don't even know what vitrified means.
Vitrification is the transformation of a substance into glass.
Oh. Huh?
Full or partial transformation of a substance into glass. It's freezing with no ice formation. So we use vitrification in ceramics and glass making, and probably more notoriously in IVF treatment.
Oh.
In vitro fertilization. Freezing eggs, freezing embryos. You ever heard of that?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So
Is it like, I thought they do liquid nitrogen, right?
yes.
Is that
Okay.
vitrification?
So if you want to freeze your eggs, have you guys ever heard someone saying that they're going to freeze eggs for later as a snack? So what they do is there's a blastocyst, which is an early stage embryo. So IVF doctors will collapse the blastocyst with a laser to get rid of all the water, because what damages cells is water freezing, because
Expands,
it crystallizes and that cuts up cells and it breaks them apart. So for
okay.
IVF, they blast all the water out of it, or they collapse the cell so that there's no water in it, and then they plunge the blastocyst into liquid nitrogen.
Nice.
So vitrified fluids show no detectable tendency to form ice because the freezing is so rapid that the water molecules don't have time to form crystals. Which, like, how long has it taken us to figure out IVF? You know, it's just like, it's a whole thing, and it is very expensive. I don't know how much it costs, but it is like very complex, very expensive, a whole thing, having a child that way. But these beetles just do it.
That is absolutely crazy. I wonder if we learned it from the beetles.
I don't think so. I
Or
don't
maybe
know.
another species. Who knows?
The transformation of a substance into glass, literally not freezing at negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit. So you asked if they're surviving.
Yeah.
They don't know. Because in a lab setting, they haven't had them survive, but they also think that they're accidentally killing them in other ways.
Oh.
Like, I read this study and they were like, they had the larva in a box outside, like in freezing temperatures.
Right.
And then the box got frozen to the ground, and they described they had to forcibly remove it. So they don't know if they damaged the larva and killed them that way. So they don't know, but they think that they can survive
That is
through
cool.
negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit. Which is,
where they're
again,
living,
negative 150 degrees Celsius.
Where they're living, it's not getting that cold.
It's so unnecessary.
Right.
Nothing
That's
needs
so
to
cool.
vitrify like in the wild.
That is so cool that like the molecules just freeze in place and become glass. It's
so insane.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, and
That's
it's
really
so
cool.
smart because the freezing that damages cells is ice, is crystallization. So they're just like, oh, let me just make it so that there's none of that. I'll just turn into glass for a sec and then come back.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
You had me at the end there. I still win though.
Quick shout out. Before scientists knew about the red flat bark beetles, the ones I just talked about, people thought the most cold tolerant insect, and the previous Guinness World Record holder for most cold tolerant insect was the woolly bear caterpillar, which can spend up to 10 months per year frozen solid at temperatures of negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And while this caterpillar is very cute, editor, I would like for you to slap a big old loser sign and a sad face on it because he lost his title hard. Negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and this beetle is negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit.
I bet they could live longer though.
Loser.
Oh. They could live longer than the beetle.
Probably.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Very nice.
Thank you.
I've got a very interesting animal, and I have an apology to make to you and to the audience.
You're about to talk smack about a bug, aren't you?
No.
Oh.
I should have chosen this as the world's wildest, #1 best animal, craziest animal ever.
He's hyping it up.
I should have, and I let you guys down, and I apologize, because this animal is not only the world's coldest, I think it's the world's hottest, can deal with the most radioactive. It's crazy. I'll get into all that, but it is a tardigrade, and
Is that an animal?
it is an animal.
Okay.
It is. It is a. I'll get to that in a second. So they're called a water bear, or AKA moss piglets. Legit names. We'll get to that later because it's like where they're found. It was discovered in 1773.
Okay.
To give context, that's 3 years before we declared independence on the tyrant King George III.
Slay.
So they are an 8-legged, segmented micro animal. They're very cute.
Audio listeners, I will describe. It looks like a little gray gummy bear with a few too many legs.
And they have hooks on them, or claws.
Okay.
On each of their legs, which is really cool. So they're 0.5 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters. I'm not going to put that into freedom units because at that small level, we normally go millimeter. So to give some context to that. So if anybody's familiar with needles,
Yes.
It's about the size of a tip of a 24 gauge needle, which is pretty small. But something more common than a needle is the tip of a mechanical pencil, the graphite that comes out. That's about roughly the size of
so you
of
can
the
see them with the naked eye.
If they're the right species, meaning the larger species, they're translucent, so you have to see them in the right light to be able to see them. What's easier is to see them under a microscope, which is what it looks like right there, under a microscope. Very cute.
It looks like a gummy bear with 3 legs, but it's see-through.
And you can see its organs, which is cool. Later, at the end of this segment, I'll tell you how you can see a water bear of your own if you have a microscope or like a student or something like that. Very easy to find. It's really cool. So they reproduce asexually and sexually, just depending on
That's
where
so
they're
handy.
at.
I love that.
Yep, it's a great time. They eat plant cells, animal cells, and bacteria.
Okay.
And some species are carnivorous, or they only go after other tardigrades. They'll only go after each other.
Okay.
So kind of, what's that word?
Mean.
Like humans eat other humans. I blanked on it.
Cannibals?
Cannibals. Kind of like cannibals. Thank you. So what they're preyed upon by, that was a weird sentence, they are preyed on by amoebas, nematodes, and other tardigrades. And they're in the same superphylum as arthropods. That's also like their closest relatives.
Okay.
There are over 1,300 described species of tardigrades. They live on every continent. They live in ice, under ice, in the highest places. They live in the hottest places next to volcanoes, coldest places, wettest places, driest places, deepest places, I already said highest, and most radioactive environments. They can live everywhere but in lava that we know of. Would be cool if they lived in lava. I don't think anything does. Would be awesome, though. So tardigrades have been known to survive the following extreme conditions. There's going to be a lot of numbers here. So audio listeners, best of luck. I will try to relate it into the Kelvin scale. Are you familiar with the Kelvin scale?
I don't think the general public is familiar with the Kelvin scale.
I'm going to keep it super simple. 0 Kelvin is the absence of all heat. It is the the coldest that we can theorize. And this has never been achieved in a scientific setting because heat always finds a way in.
Okay.
So I'll use that a little bit later. So the temperatures that tardigrades can survive, not thrive, but survive. They can do a few minutes at 304 degrees Fahrenheit or 151 degrees Celsius. They can do 30 years at -4 degrees Fahrenheit or -20 degrees Celsius. They can live a few days at -328 degrees Fahrenheit.
Dang it.
-200 degrees Celsius or 73 Kelvin, which is really cold. But here's where it gets crazy. And there's no other species that can do this. It can survive a few minutes at -458 degrees Fahrenheit.
Dang it.
Which is -272 degrees Celsius. But the craziest thing is 1 Kelvin. And if we could achieve 0 Kelvin in a laboratory setting, it would probably survive that too for a few minutes.
Okay. So you're telling me they killed these things?
No. Well, sure, they killed some of them. They ended up killing like half of them and the other half lived.
Yeah.
So it's not every single tardigrade is going to survive out of 100 of them that they have in there.
Do you think that if they were like Chihuahua size, they would feel like a naked cat?
Maybe like a naked mole rat.
They just feel the same.
Naked mole rats are dense.
I mean, this way that their skin feels. Keep going.
Probably.
They look wrinkly.
They do. There's some fan art later in this segment because they did some cool things, and I'll get to it in a second. So, okay, they can go through freezing and thawing process a bunch of times. It doesn't affect them really.
Excellent. Love that.
They can survive 1,000 times the lethal human dose of radiation. No problem.
Okay.
Change in salinity. They can be thrown in salty water, fresh water, doesn't matter. Lack of oxygen, lack of water. They can deal with noxious chemicals. They can be boiled in alcohol. They can deal with low pressures of a vacuum.
They have put them through the freaking ringer, huh?
Mm-hmm. High pressures up to 6 times the pressure of the deepest part of the ocean.
Man, they really put these guys through the ringer.
The amount of research that they go into is crazy, and I'll get to that in a minute. Why it's so important. So here's the craziest thing. Producer, please bring up the tardigrades in space. They survived 10 days in the vacuum of space. I read how they did that experiment. They had to create a specialty goo for them to sit in, and then they put them out in space off the ISS for 10 days, and half of them survived.
Justice for tardigrades.
They're put through the ringer.
Audio listeners, we were looking at a picture of a tardigrade in space, and it looks like, Willy Wonka, where the girl eats the blueberry and she blows up. It looks like that combined with an English bulldog, if it had 6 legs.
I'm surprised you know that reference of Willy Wonka. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So they shot them to the moon.
Stop! What? I can't take it anymore.
The spacecraft didn't have a good time, and so it blew up and they died, most likely. But there's a chance that they survived and they're hanging out on the moon. So they're absolutely crazy. So they're not walking around on the moon. What they do to survive this, tardigrades have adapted to environmental stresses by undergoing a process known as cryptobiosis. And it's defined by a state where metabolic activity comes to a reversible standstill.
Is it really crypto and not cryo?
Crypto, yeah, crypto.
Okay.
Yeah, crypto. So what they do is they curl up into a ball, and they have all these mechanisms. I was reading that was honestly not. It'd be hard to translate all that. If you're interested, go look it up. Great articles on it. But there's a lot of different microbiology processes that they do to survive different things, and different species are better at surviving different situations than others. So there's at least 2 species of tardigrade that produced proteins that are different from every other animal on Earth, and it's dubbed the D-sub, short for damage suppressor. It binds to DNA and may physically shield it from reactive forms of oxygen. Crazy. Oxygen.
So they're anti-blow up?
They're
anti-explode?
What is it? Rust. What causes rust?
Oxidation?
Yeah, oxidation. So it's oxidation that's a huge issue with DNA damage.
Okay.
So it protects them from that.
I can't stop thinking about them getting launched into space and being crushed in a lab and boiled in alcohol.
I mean, imagine all the other things that they did to rule them out.
It's really killing my vibe.
Yeah, it's sad. So tardigrades have been regenerated or rehydrated from a 100-year-old dried moss that was in a museum. So they could live in stable conditions for hundreds of years, probably.
Not dormant in that moss. They were alive in dried moss.
They were dormant. And then you put water on them and they wake up.
Wow.
Yeah, they're in that ball state for 100+ years.
Wow.
And they give them water and they're good.
That's so interesting.
They've survived 5 mass extinctions. They've been around for millions of years. So they are so heavily studied.
Yeah.
So we know a lot about them because they're so unique, and we want to find things like the D-sub or the damage suppressor protein, because humans want to use it for ourselves.
Classic.
So they want to figure out how to stabilize vaccines.
Yeah.
Because if you could have a vaccine that doesn't need to be refrigerated, can go through the desert and be fine, or in the Arctic. Yeah.
Right.
It saves so much money, and you can get it to everybody. Stabilize blood for blood banks. And then the biggest one is engineering crops to be resistant to extreme temperatures.
Man.
So, all the GMOs.
Should we make merch that says "Justice for Tardigrades," and it's like a little tardigrade with a astronaut helmet on, and he's floating through space, crying.
Give him a little picket sign.
Yeah. He's picketing in space.
I would love that. I'd wear that everywhere.
Oh my god.
I love the tardigrades. They're so cool.
That's so cool. They're shockingly charismatic for such a small organism. I mean, charismatic in that they look cute. I don't know that they do much. I mean, they curl into a ball, so that's cute.
Yeah, I mean, they help break down plants, proteins. They fight off bacteria, you know?
Yeah.
So if you want to find a tardigrade.
Any microscope users?
This is what they're going to look like under the microscope. They're really cool. You can pretty much go to any moss or lichen, dry or wet, that's around you, pick it up, and place it in a shallow dish, such as a petri dish. This is mostly for students. I don't think many people have microscopes laying around. But you soak the petri dish in water, preferably rainwater or distilled water, but they can survive a lot, so whatever, for 3 to 24 hours. Remove and discard excess water from the dish. Shake or squeeze the moss or lichen clumps over another transparent dish to collect trapped water. Starting on a low objective on the microscope, examine the water. They suggest a stereo microscope. Use a micropipette, or really just however you want to get the water out, to transfer the tardigrades to a slide, which can be observed with a higher power under a compound microscope. And you can see them like this.
If anybody follows those directions, you have to tell us.
It's so easy.
If anybody does that, you have to tell us.
It's so easy. You just put it in water, squeeze it out, and look under a microscope.
I appreciate the detailed instructions. I
You're
don't think
welcome.
any of them are going to do it.
I bet we're going to have so many people do it.
Okay.
I bet let's over under 5 or 10. What do you think?
Under.
You want to take 5 or 10?
Under 5.
Under 5? I say over 5. Add us on Twitter, Instagram, if you do it. Show us.
Sure.
It'll be over 5.
All right.
And the loser has to get water dumped on their head.
No.
Okay.
How about if you're the loser, you get water dumped on your head? And if I'm the loser, we just don't talk about it again.
That works. You do like to rub it in my face sometimes.
Works for me. No, that's cool. Okay. Quiz time.
Okay, speaking of living in the cold, what color is the skin of a polar bear?
Black.
We buzzed at the same time.
Oh,
that
sorry.
was outrageous.
That was pretty
All
much
right.
exactly the same.
I thought I had that one. Sorry.
Oh, should we go again?
We can do another one.
We should go again.
Okay. You're both gonna know this. What are vultures known to do to cool off?
Peach.
That is correct.
Good job.
That feels bad.
No.
Because we both knew that one.
Well, it's fine. I'm about to get you on this next section, so don't you worry.
Okay, well.
I got a Q&A section coming up instead of my second animal.
All right, you ready for my second one?
Yes.
You're not going to think it's impressive because you're obsessed with tardigrades.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Justice for tardigrades.
Wood frogs.
Oh, they're super cool.
They are cool. And I think a lot of people know about this. I think they have them in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I was just thinking about that.
They like
yes. You
suck
gotta
on
lick
them. Yeah.
Yep.
Don't do that. Anyway, adult wood frogs are 1.46 to 3.27 inches, which is...
Wait. 1.6.
1.4.
1.4, okay. To what?
To 3.27.
Huge. Thank you.
37 to 83 millimeters in length. They're found across Canada and the United States. They're everywhere. They eat arachnids. They eat insects, worms, slugs, snails. They're frogs.
Nice.
They're cute little frogs.
Cute basic frogs.
Audio listeners, it's we're looking at a picture. It's what you think of when you think of a frog, except it's tan instead of green.
Yeah.
That's
it's
it.
cool.
Yeah. So they are undamaged by cold conditions that would kill nearly all other animals. They live in forests where the temperatures can reach negative 80 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 62 degrees Celsius. So they'll live in Alaska where
That's
it gets
crazy.
really cold.
Okay.
And most frogs and other reptiles and amphibians will survive the winter via brumation, which is just hibernation for reptiles and amphibians. And what they'll do is they'll go deep underwater so that they're dormant, but their body temperature never falls below freezing. So they're chilling under there.
Right.
So they're not freezing. Wood frogs, they'll just nestle down into leaf litter. Mm-hmm. So there's only some leaf litter and some snow above them. Really, there's not a point. They could just be on the surface. They barely burrow themselves.
That's cool.
So in most animals, and I talked about this a little bit when I was talking about IVF and stuff, is freezing means ice crystals form inside of an animal, and that punctures cells, blood vessels. When blood freezes, there's no mechanism for transporting oxygen to our organs, so our organs die, and nutrients to our organs, so the organs die. Wood frogs, on the other hand, instead of dying, will freeze for up to 8 months each year.
That's crazy.
8 months each year. And when I say they're freezing, I mean they are frozen. We're looking at a picture of a frog. Imagine a frog that's frozen.
It's a frozen popsicle frog.
It's a frozen popsicle frog. Ice fills up the abdominal cavity, encases the internal organs. The ice crystals form between layers of the skin and muscle. Their eyeballs freeze over.
It's fully all the way through.
It's freaking frozen, man.
Right.
Like, it is frozen. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, it's not actually frozen. It's frozen.
Right.
There's no heartbeat. It's not breathing. There's no brain activity. It's freaking frozen.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Wood frogs' livers produce large amounts of glucose as a cryoprotectant, which prevents freezing.
Okay, yeah.
So essentially, ice is freezing around the organs, like encasing the organs, but is not inside the cells themselves. Like, the ice isn't.
Oh.
The cells aren't frozen.
So they're keeping the ice crystals on the outside.
Yeah. And then in the spring, they just thaw.
That's so nice.
With as it gets warmer, they thaw from the inside out. Their heart will just start beating. Their brain will activate, and then their little feet will start moving, and then they'll kind of like every video that they've seen or the observations that they do, they like swallow once, and then they're like they start wiggling their feet a little bit, and then they just freaking hop away.
That's nuts.
It's so crazy. 8 months of being frozen, and then they just come back to life.
Man, ice cream's bad after what, 3 or 4 months in the freezer?
I think they survive ice cream lasts a lot longer than that.
It gets all crystally and gross.
Yeah. So I have lots of questions, or we have lots of questions because we've studied wood frogs.
Right.
Because we're humans and that's what we do.
We want to do this to ourselves so we can ship ourselves off into space to go rescue the tardigrades.
Yeah. One, why can their blood just stop circulating and never clot? Right? Like,
that's a good
kind of
point.
crazy.
Yeah.
So why do they have no blood clots or other injuries from their blood not circulating? Two,
do you have answers to these?
Huh?
Do you have answers to these?
No.
Oh, okay. We're still learning.
These are questions that we want to answer.
Gotcha. That's really good research.
I would have a lot of money if I had answers to all these questions.
It's about to be my mind's blown. It's already blown. Would it be blown even more?
So they're using glucose to avoid their cells freezing, right? Mm-hmm. They can tolerate blood sugar levels 100 times higher than normal without damage. Human diabetics can't tolerate blood sugar levels, or they suffer at 2 times higher than normal blood sugar levels.
Okay.
Frogs can do 100 times higher than normal levels.
That's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
That's like the blood percentage is like 10% sugar.
Insane. So we can learn a lot about diabetes in humans potentially.
Oh, cool. Okay.
From them. How can the organs be frozen and thawed for long periods of time? So for transplants, like how can we extend the time in between transplanting an organ?
That's cool.
To other people, and
we can freeze Walt Disney's brain properly. So we can transplant that in the future to an AI machine so we can have the brilliance of Disney back.
I have terrible news for you.
What?
About Disney. You know what I learned today?
No.
The Lion King, they cut a scene. It was cut. So like, in their defense, they cut it. But did you know that Scar was trying to get at Nala?
I mean, that seemed like it, yeah.
In The Lion King?
Have you even seen Lion King?
No. Well, I just watched the animated one, or the one where it's like not CGI, like animated,
yeah.
The recent one.
Oh, you watched that one?
Not the cartoon.
Well, you didn't watch the cartoon.
I haven't seen the cartoon yet. My point. Okay, I'm trying to tell you a story. Nala, Scar was going for Nala.
Yeah.
And it was a whole scene. Like, he was like, "You're gonna be my queen," and she was like, "No, I'm not you." And then he was like, "All right, then be banished." And she was like, "What? You can't do that?" And then he brought all the hyenas out. Well, first of all, he was like,
I thought he already did this.
No, it was a cut scene.
Oh, okay.
He like sang her a song, and he was like, "You don't have a choice.
Oh.
Like, you're gonna be my queen." And she was like, "No, I don't want to." And then he was like, "I'm gonna banish you." And then she was like, "No, you can't do that." So he brought out all his hyenas, and they chased her away.
Sad.
And that's why she left.
Oh.
But also, it's a really problematic age gap. I'm gonna say it.
What's the age? I don't even know the age gap.
Well, the movie that I saw, Scar was a grown man and she was a little baby.
Oh, Nala is
Simba's friend from when she was a cub.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
That took me a second. Sorry. I forgot Simba's mom. I forgot her name.
I don't know.
But Simba's
that'd
girlfriend.
be really messed up if he went for her mom too, because that's his brother's wife.
Went for a cub. That's gross.
His brother who he killed? His wife?
I mean, the animal kingdom. But no, that's
Don't
crazy.
Be messy. That's crazy.
Now, going for a cub, that wouldn't even happen in the real world.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Anyway, sorry. That was a tangent. I learned that today. Sorry to ruin your favorite movie. I also ruined your favorite movie in the Pride Month episode. Anyway, my question, this answer is so funny to me. Maybe it's not funny at all. But I was like, why do these frogs do this and no other frogs?
Okay.
Like, why do other frogs just like go underwater or bury themselves deeper and not freeze?
Right.
So I was like, why wood frogs and not other frogs? And I was like trying to find the answer. And as a scientist at the California Academy of Sciences said, because they're not
That's
very
a
good
mouthful.
at digging.
Oh, okay.
Cal Academy? You've never been to Cal Academy?
No.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, a scientist at Cal Academy was like, well, they're not very strong at digging.
Oh, sad.
And I was like, I'm sorry, you're telling me evolutionarily that it was easier to learn how to freeze for 8 months out of the year and then magically thaw out and keep living than it is to learn how to dig better?
That is crazy.
It's so stupid, but I couldn't find a better answer.
But it allows them to have a more northern range too. Yeah, so I guess I can see how evolution made that happen, but like also, digging
so
would be
funny.
way easier. Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
It's currently 71 degrees in here. It's in 40 minutes. It's gotten down 4 degrees. My AC sucks. I want it to be 50 degrees in here.
I feel pretty comfy.
Okay. Well, you're not going to feel comfy after I put you to the ringer through 5 multiple choice questions. They're pretty tough. They're about the world's coldest by Animal Kingdom. What do you think? How many will you get right out of 5? A, B, or C, D answers.
1.
Oh, okay. You might get 1, maybe, if you're lucky. Okay. So, disclaimer. This is what I could find doing research, like reading research papers and looking around the internet for reputable sources. There's no leaderboard out there on this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Maybe we make a leaderboard. I don't know. But the research is limited because research is very heavily focused on like tardigrades or wood frogs or stuff that can that's so bizarre that we could utilize them for human endeavors. So, for the first Animal Kingdom, mammals, which one can survive at the coldest temperatures? Is it A, a polar bear, B, an Arctic fox, C, a Japanese macaque, or D, beluga whale?
A beluga whale.
No. I'll get you to try again.
It's not a macaque.
Okay.
What were the first two? Polar bear and what?
Arctic fox.
Polar bear?
Incorrect. It is the Arctic fox.
What the heck?
They're quite small. They're just so good. Okay, so for reference, Arctic fox can live live and actively do their thing at negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 50 degrees Celsius. They don't do a lot at that time. They're not like running around, but they're like burrowing. They're going around, using the bathroom, stuff like that. Polar bears are good at negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit, so 8 degrees warmer, or negative 45 degrees Celsius.
Well, so far it's going great.
Beluga whales is around like freezing temperatures, so around 32.
Oh, duh.
Around 0 degrees Fahrenheit.
I just always think that the water's so much colder, but duh.
Yeah, it doesn't freeze. Yeah.
Stupid. Stupid.
All right. Number 2, birds. Which bird can survive? This isn't survive at the coldest temperature. You might get this one. At coldest temperatures. So, A, snowy owl.
That's a trick.
B, repels griffin vulture. C, bald eagle. D, Arctic tern.
I'm just gonna say D because I feel like A is a trick. I feel like it's not snowy owl.
You're incorrect about Arctic tern, but it's not snowy owl either.
Is it bald eagle?
No.
Dude, I hate this game. I am doing bad.
So repels griffin vulture, which is also
the
world's highest flying vulture.
Isn't this an African vulture?
It is.
Why do they need to do so well in the cold then?
So they were found at 37,000 feet up in the air.
Oh, freaking of course. I keep not thinking. I need to use my brain.
11,300 meters high.
Ugh.
Which is negative 72 degrees Fahrenheit up there. or negative 76 or negative 70 or 60 degrees Celsius. So many numbers. So for reference, Mount Everest is 29,032 feet tall or 8,849 meters tall.
Light work.
So Rappel's griffon vulture can fly at least 8,000 feet over Mount Everest. Mm-hmm. And the reason that they found out about this vulture is because they got hit by a plane. Mm-hmm. Sad. Now we can put trackers on these guys and see this. But they can do this. They don't know how they deal with the cold. Granted, they could just be up there caught in a thermal and trying to fight its way back down and be up there for like 10 minutes or something. But they can go super high because they have air sacs in their body that they will absorb oxygen, have concentrated oxygen in those air sacs, so they can go up and have like stores of oxygen, like oxygen tanks to go up that high. So that's how they can do that. So Maya is 0 for 2.
Okay.
The last 3 you might get because it's only A, B, and C. So you have a 33.333% chance to get this.
Nerd.
Reptiles. A, European adder. Adder. I'm going to butcher this one. B, viviparous lizard.
Viviparous?
It's V-I-V-I, porous lizard.
Okay.
Viviparous. Or C, garter snake.
What was the first one?
European adder. Which one?
Adder.
Which is a type of snake.
I don't know anything about the second one. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with garter snake.
Hey, correct.
Hey!
So garter snakes have been studied because they can do pretty well and still function in cold environments.
They're everywhere too.
Yeah, they are. Europe, types of garter snakes all around the world. Mm-hmm. So they can live or they can function at 23 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 5 degrees Celsius, which is really cold for a reptile.
Yeah.
So doing really well. All right, number 4, arthropods.
Okay.
I'm going to butcher. No, I got this one. A, Cryptopygus antarcticus. Cryptopygus antarcticus.
You're going to be scientific names? There's no shot.
It's a type of springtail. Micro springtail, technically. Dementius frozae, or northern scorpion.
The first one.
Hey, good job.
Hooray.
So it's a type of springtail. They're tiny. They live up to negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 30 degrees Celsius. When it starts getting cold, they bring in antifreeze components into their bodies.
Hooray.
So they still function really well at that level. The second one, Dementius frozae, I made up because I couldn't find any other arthropods. Oh. That kind of made sense in that category. All right. Number 5, last one to beat your over-under.
Okay.
Fish. Arctic tooth, or A, an Arctic toothfish. B, an Antarctic dragonfish. Or C, a polar grouper.
I'm just going to say polar grouper because I know they live really deep down, which sounds colder.
I made that one up.
Oh.
It is Antarctic dragonfish.
Oh.
They can live up to 28.5 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 1.9 degrees Celsius. Congratulations. Wow. You did 2 out of 5. You did good.
Hooray.
So you said you were going to get 1.
I'll take it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you for watching this episode of World's Wildest, our World's Coldest. Perfect time of year to do World's Coldest episode, right?
Nice and hot.
Yeah.
100 degrees out. Love it.
Excellent. Great. Make sure to go check us out on Patreon if you want some extra content. We do extra videos on there. We just did an animal sound guessing game.
About to do another one.
Yeah, we're about to do another one right now.
I study for it. Oh. So I don't get embarrassed like you embarrassed me last time.
That's crazy. I did not study.
Beat you.
You can buy mugs if you want. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, hello, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
You can get us on wherever you get your podcasts. And if you give us a 5-star review, that would be super helpful.
You're giving cookies out, right?
Yeah, you get a cookie if you give us a 5-star review. Thank you very much. See you on the next episode.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.